SG Reads.
Hello fellow travelers, my name's SG and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be covering a new analog horror series that has been out for almost a month and a half or so, I believe. And I really just wanted to talk about it. This of course being Dead Signal VHS. Now, I can't really explain why I have grown to it. It's almost like I'm being pulled to it, if you will. More like it is influencing me almost. I couldn't tell you why or how, but almost like a whisper, if you will, or maybe just a gravitational pull. I don't know, but either way, it does seem that this series is very interesting, has a lot of heart to it, but at the same time adds a new element of horror that is very unsettling and kind of goes with the PSA kind of signals, or, you know, those signals that come on the TV telling you when a major incident's about to happen. And there is a deep-rooted lore in this that I did really want to cover. So, for right now, let's get started, shall we? But before we do that, please have a like, comment, subscribe down below. It really helps me out, lets me know you like this content. Also, please go check out the original creator. Check out his videos before you check out this one. And put down in the comment section what you think is happening overall in the main story. I, of course, would like to hear your opinions, your thoughts, or maybe I'm very wrong and there's something else going on behind the scenes. But for right now, let's get started, shall we? Dead Signal VHS is a PSA in an alternate world where alternates, doppelgangers, or whatever you like to call them, are taking over human lives. It does seem that there is a lot more going on in this world, from the regular animals to people, and with a deep-seated lore into it. These PSAs act as both a warning and as a way of escape and or a way to avoid these entities altogether. From a cat that just seems to respond to you in a human tone, dog standing up, the reflection in your mirror suddenly having its own opinion on things, and even finding that you aren't in the same house or finding that the house seems to be duplicating itself altogether. Now, these don't seem to be any connection to it, but when we get down to it and find out who the narrator is and what's been going on in his own life, we do get this bigger story. In fact, the author of the channel itself does seem to point towards that as well. And for right now, that's what we're going to get into. Who the narrator is, what the lore of this world is, and what is next in line for this story. So, with that being said, those are the basics of the videos. But please, I do suggest going to go see more, or go see them yourself. There are 35 episodes in total, but most of them don't go past 2 minutes. Or at least 3 minutes at most. So, do go check it out, let me know what you think, and we're moving on to the narrator. Off the bat, the narrator claims that he has found these certain tapes throughout the video, but they all are very similar and in very stylized. So leads me to believe that the narrator is not just the one putting these together, he's the one creating them. He's the one that's sort of putting it together and kind of stating it to the people. So for the most part, we can assume that the narrator isn't just the one presenting, finding these tapes, and or just putting them on YouTube. He's creating them. He's creating the warnings. But we come down to the answer of why. Why is he doing this? Well, it's revealed halfway through the series that he is a victim of these doppelgangers, these alternates, the reflections, if you will. But from what we can tell, it's a lot deeper than we think. This has been going on for a long time, and the narrator seems to have just realized that right now. And not just to the people around him, but to him himself, which is where the lore really does come in. Now, I can't really talk about that more, but from what we can say about the narrator is that he is not just the collector or the one putting these together. He is the creator. It's him. He's the one who owns the channel. And for a fact that the channel seems to be reacting to him, look in the post section or where the community section is, and you'll find that he is often leaving notes for us, the viewer, and saying that this is being forced upon him or something along those lines. And even in the comment sections, he does seem to go along with it as well. So, for the most part, we can assume that the narrator isn't just a lone person putting these together, or isn't just a one-off character. He is the frequent character throughout the series, and is the author or creator of the channel itself. In the world of Dead Signals, it does seem that there is an epidemic. An epidemic that's been going on since the 1970s, actually. And from that, we know that people are either being replaced or they're also being kind of taken over. Some people's minds are being transferred over to another body, or some people are just being replaced altogether with this empty husk that just has the same memories and or similar tendencies as the original one they copied. Now, this usually happens through eye contact or through various means, such as a chain letter through the purple heart, if you will. But there does seem to be a bigger correlation here, because halfway through the video we do find out that animals are also being affected by this. And it's not that the animals themselves are being taken over, it's just that they are a means to an end as well, because they really just want human physical bodies, not animals. So even animals seem to transform and are unable to hold their physical appearance for at least a week, because after a while their fur starts to come out and also become looking like demon-like creatures, if you will, all because they're trying to scope out the person in charge, or the person that they're hunting. Now, it does seem that there are several different ways a person is possessed in this world. Like I said before, it seems to be through eye contact or those that are willingly able to be integrated in. Those seem to be the easiest ones, such as those who receive weird radio frequencies. Even in the videos, in the cursed one, it does suggest that even watching several videos, you might hear whispering, hums, or anything like that. Now, I didn't hear anything of that particular in the videos, but we do see some people reacting to it as well. So that kind of suggests that those are the easier ones to either abduct or take over their lives. The harder ones seem to be relying on creatures or animals, like pets, dogs, and cats in certain ways, to kind of scope out and find a way to just take over their lives, period. Those seem to be the harder cases for these entities. But soon enough, it does seem like there is a pattern to this. It has been happening for a while. And even in one of the last videos, we aren't even called a cautious incident or even just a quarantined incident. Now the people who are considered unaffected are just called survivors. But the interesting part in this is that even the doppelgangers, the husks that take over, seem to have this identity crisis themselves, because they seem to copy and mimic ideas, reactions, thoughts, that some of them even start beginning to think that they are the person they took over, and that they have forgotten that they are husks, that they are just creatures that are there to take over. And that's kind of where we get to our narrator again, which I do want to talk about because his whole impact on this is one of the most important and devastating in the series. Now, midway through the series, we get to a video called "If You Wake Up as Someone Else, Don't Tell Anyone." That is where we finally realize that the person we've talked to seems to be one of these creatures, seems to be one of these alternates or doppelgangers, whatever you like to call them. And for the most part, he seems to be finally aware of it, realizing that the life he's living is not exactly his own. The face he's wearing isn't his either. And even the way that he's gone about things doesn't seem right either. So for the most part, we do know that this character, our narrator, is one of these creatures already. But I don't think this is where we actually learn that he's a fake. I think we can go back to as early as the "I blinked, it didn't" video, that we can really see where things start ramping up, and that we kind of figured that this is where his alternate took over. And I say that that's more where it took over, but we do know its presence was around since "Don't Look at the Second Moon," mainly because this was such an out there concept and weird thing to throw out there. But for me, what really kind of shown this was that the text boxes, the words, were themselves in red when this creature took over. From that point on, we saw it kind of morphing into that. And we do see that same red text in that same video. So it's not that that's the point where it took over, more like this is where we're still learning. Because as we know, it takes a while for these creatures to kind of get the idea of being human down, or the personality and traits of their host. So I have to believe that the perfect pillow, along with do not look at the second moon, was its learning phases, and that it was watching all the way up to a certain point, such as the cursed video. The cursed video seems to be the defining point where we do learn that this is where it finally just took control, that the original is gone now, and that it does seem that it was continuing on with his work. And now it seems to have fallen into the state where it's just learning that it's a duplicate itself. It actually believed it was the original host, and is now realizing that it's not. It's just been doing the same thing it was before, and that's following its lead, or I should say his lead. But what we can put together now is what happened to the original host, and we have several clues that I think the narrator was sprinkling throughout the rest of the videos. Now, the protagonist, or at least the original narrator, does have a story, and I do think that we can piece it together from the little bits we are given here throughout the videos. One, we could tell that his original job was to be the PSA voice actor. In fact, I'd say he's just a voice actor, period. Mainly because of that pillow episode. It does seem to be more of an ad rather than a PSA. So, the original narrator himself was just that, a voice actor. And that he was designed mainly to talk about these instances. At first, they seemed to be one of a million. You could even say that they were still just a job, and he probably didn't believe it really either, until he himself started experiencing little things here and there as well. That being that he knew that there were certain events happening around him. And even going back to old pictures, he could tell that there was something there. And that's when memories started coming in. He started remembering, he started drawing these pictures of a creature that wasn't there. And once he saw that picture in the old photos, or even in his drawings, the voices started appearing. It started echoing at him, started making him recall events that happened, making him think that people were missing in his younger years, that a whole class went missing, that a teacher was acting strange. And from that point on, we do see that he becomes a little more intense with making these PSA messages, almost ranging to a near kind of personal experience, until finally it starts integrating into the PSAs. He starts hearing the voices in the recording, and a strange face starts appearing as well. And it came to a head when one day he came home, but everything was in duplicates. Everything was different. Everything was strange. There was something wrong that he couldn't quite put his finger on. He remembered seeing an image in a reflection that didn't feel quite right either. It didn't take him much to process it, and didn't really understand it, but he'd already been experiencing so many odd happenings that this didn't seem like anything different as well. But it all comes to a head when he wakes up one night and finds that he is outside his own body. There is no way of finding it, that he had become a translucent figure in his own house, and that there has been a decision made about him. He was going to be replaced with something that was kinda resembled him, but it wasn't him exactly. His body was then taken somewhere else by these creatures, hidden in the house that he lived in, or at least somewhere else. And his mind was left to wander the area, almost like a ghost. There he followed this other entity claiming to be him, to a different home, to a different place, to a different kind of area, to a different life, but all having the exact same kind of methods. He didn't have a wife, but this one did. He didn't have a dog, but this one does. And he didn't live in this house, but this one does. But still has his memory, still has his voice, and still has his job, and that is to be a PSA voice actor. Now, there isn't much to go off of that point. This is mostly speculation, but we can tell that this spectral version of him was trying to contact him on the phone, trying to warn him, because he could tell that this doppelganger of his, this alternate version of him, wasn't a bad guy. In fact, he had gone on to believe that he was the original, and that the fact that he was a doppelganger and realized it seemed to be slowly destroying him overall, and that these other entities, these ones that have been the puppet masters in all this, are starting to notice him noticing, and are in the mindset of either destroying him altogether or re-educating him. Now, why did they put the doppelganger in place of this voice actor? Well, I do think that that's a bigger role too. And for right now, that's where the story I have to leave is at an end. But just know that the original protagonist, the original person, is still out there and may be looking for a way to get help from his doppelganger. Hence why we hear a phone call from him go straight to the doppelganger. Now the main question is this: why would the doppelganger continue working on as a voice actor for the PSA? Why would he constantly be doing it when he's acting like it's a way to strike back at his kind of creators? Well, when he didn't know that he was a doppelganger, it seemed like he was giving bad information. Purposely, even. That he was giving the doppelgangers what they wanted. And that was to give bad information so that they had an easier way to get into people's homes, into their minds, and ultimately replace them. And if you see videos after the curse video, that kind of does fit. But after we see that the doppelganger kind of realized what he was, we do see him kind of being spiteful, kind of fighting back in a way that is warning the regular public, but at the same time still not trying to go against its programming, or at least the way it was intended to be processed in a way. So we can suggest that the reason they chose him, even from very long ago, was for this purpose. Was that they wanted to have a way into people's homes, a way to affect how they reacted to this situation in a way that would befit them and make it easier for them to kind of go into people's minds. Now the biggest question to this whole thing, what are the doppelgangers? Are they spirits, demons, or an experiment? And that really lies in between where you want to treat this. They do act like demons and they do look like it. In fact, it does kind of offer the same kind of etiquette as a demon possession offers, such as the 3 levels of possession. We got infestation, oppression, and fully possession. With that in mind, we are currently at the oppression phase. Infestation does fit into what we've seen, such as it affecting the mind, it being in photos, it being in drawings, and affecting you in certain ways, even in the style of a chain letter. So it does offer infestation. And then we get to oppression, where now these kind of PSAs are telling you that everyone around you is not right, everything around you does not fit. It's making you abandon your persona as a human being, making you abandon friends, crushes, family, distrusting them, and pretty much locking yourself away. That is oppression. And then finally, full possession. And that goes into the idea that they become you. They become something different you. They act and talk and speak just like you, but they're different. They're wrong. And that kind of goes with a demonic possession. So that does kind of give some reason to believe that these things are demons, or at least something similar to that. But we can also fit that this may be a government experiment, mainly because the PSA is a government process, while at the same time we do know that there was a government experiment known as MIRROR, an entity that does seem to be inside mirrors. Now we are giving brief information about it, such as that it hides in mirrors and escaped from a facility, and we can pretty much relate it to the SCP Foundation. But for the most part we don't really have more information than that at this very moment, but it does kind of fit in that kind of vein. So it is reliable to say that this comes straight from the horse's mouth, that this is definitely an experiment that escaped, while at the same time experiencing the same things that give it a supernatural presence, a weird kind of demonic possession ability. It does create a host, but the host itself is just an empty shell. Can't really do more than that, and that's pretty much, I think, what it's feeling. Like it wants to belong somewhere, but just can't. And this is just its latest form. Now, given all that information, I can't really tell you where the storyline is going. It's such a unique and different take on an analog horror, and giving it a new perspective, that I really just want to see how it goes and where it'll end up. I think it's very well done. I like it. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 if I could. There are several things that don't sit right with me, certain red herrings here and there. So that in itself would make me just lower it by a point to 9 out of 10. I do like this setup. I do like the way it's presented, and kind of taking from other analog horrors to kind of build something new. Something familiar, but at the same time, something that gives you a really creepy vibe. Because anybody who's seen those PSAs on the TV or on YouTube can say that it doesn't feel right. It feels odd and ominous, and makes you do think that there's something bigger out there, and or makes you feel a threatening presence. So I do enjoy this series, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. Please go support the original creator. I'll leave a link to the original playlist down below, or the original channel if I can. And please support him as much as you can, and we'll see how this goes from here. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. And stay safe out there. Don't open any weird doors that you don't remember. Make sure your cat can't talk to you. And of course, beware the reflection in the mirror. You never know what he's thinking.